stand-up historian. Those who tell stories rule society. What I want to fix your attention on is the vast overall movement towards the discrediting and finally the elimination of every kind of human excellence, moral, cultural, social, or intellectual. And is it not pretty to notice how democracy is now doing for us the work that was once done by the most ancient dictatorships and by the same methods? What you heard was from Screwtape Proposes a Toast, a satirical epistolary short story by C.S. Lewis. These are excerpts from Screwtape Proposes a Toast. It's an essay by C.S. Lewis. These excerpts address the issues and dilemma of democracy and how it leads to the dictatorship of majority and the creation of personal envy and eventually all-out evil. As we are witnessing around the world, in every country and society and every system of governing which is supposedly democratic, these days, with the excuse of COVID-19 pandemic, most democratic governments acting no different than those that they used to be called dictatorship. Plato himself predicted that democracy eventually would lead to nations being governed by bullies and brutes. Take a minute and think about the people who are running our country today. Can you tell that Plato was wrong? Thomas Paine famously said, "Government is at best a necessary evil." Whatever your opinion of democracy, remember that democracy is nothing but a very fragile system of government. And the next time we celebrate the 4th of July, keep in mind that wiser men in the past warned us about the flaws of democracy. The scene is in hell at the annual dinner of Tempter's Training College for young devils. The principal, Dr. Slobgob, has just proposed the health to the guests. Screwtape is a very experienced devil who is the guest of honor. He rises to reply. Here you go.
Let me recall to your minds what the human situation was in the latter half of the 19th century, the period at which I ceased to be a practicing tempter and was rewarded with an administrative post. The great movement toward liberty and equality among men had by then borne solid fruits and grown mature. Slavery had been abolished. The American War of Independence had been won. The French Revolution had succeeded. In that movement, there had originally been many elements which were in our favor. Much atheism, much anti-clericalism, much envy and thirst for revenge. Even some rather absurd attempts to revive paganism were mixed in it. It was not easy to determine what our own attitude should be. On the one hand, it was a bitter blow to us. It still is, that any sort of man who had been hungry should be fed, or any who had long worn chains should have them struck off. But on the other hand, there was in the movement so much rejection of faith, so much materialism, secularism, and hatred that we felt we were bound to encourage it. By the latter part of the century, the situation was much simpler and also much more ominous. In the English sector, where I saw most of my frontline service, a horrible thing had happened. The enemy, with his usual sleight of hand, had largely appropriated this progressive or liberalizing movement and perverted it to his own ends. Very little of its old anti-Christianity remained. The dangerous phenomenon called Christian socialism was rampant. Factory owners of the good old type who grew rich on sweated labor, instead of being assassinated by their work people, we could have used that, were being frowned upon by their own class. The rich were increasingly giving up their power, not in the face of revolution and compulsion, but in obedience to their own conscience. As for the poor who benefited by this, they were behaving in a most disappointing fashion. Instead of using their new liberties, as we reasonably hoped and expected, for massacre, rape, and looting, or even for perpetual intoxication, they were perversely engaged in becoming cleaner, more orderly, more thrifty, better educated, and even more virtuous. Believe me, gentle devils, the threat of something like a really healthy state of society seemed then perfectly serious. Thanks to our Father below, the threat was averted. Our counterattack was on two levels. On the deepest level, our leaders contrived to call into full life an element which had been implicit in the movement from its earliest day. Hidden in the heart of this striving for liberty, there was also a deep hatred for personal freedom. That invaluable man, Rousseau, first revealed it. In his perfect democracy, only the state religion is permitted. Slavery is restored, and the individual is told that he has really willed, though he didn't know it, whatever the government tells him to do. From that starting point, via Hegel, another indispensable propagandist on our side, we easily contrived both the Nazi and the communist state. Even in England, we were pretty successful. I heard the other day that in that country, a man could not, without a permit, cut down his own tree with his own axe, make it into planks with his own saw, and use the planks to build a tool shed in his own garden. Such was our counterattack on one level. You, who are the mere beginners, will not be entrusted with work of that kind. You will be attached as a tempter to private persons. Against them or through them, our counterattack takes a different form. Democracy is the word with which you must lead them by the nose. The good work which our philological experts have already done in the corruption of human language makes it unnecessary to warn you that they should never be allowed to give this word a clear and definable meaning. They won't. It will never occur to them that democracy is properly the name of a political system, even a system of voting, and that this has only the most remote and tenuous connection with what you are trying to sell them. Nor, of course, must they ever be allowed to raise Aristotle's question whether democratic behavior means the behavior that democracies like, or the behavior that will preserve a democracy. For if they did, it could hardly fail to occur to them that these need not be the same. You are to use the word purely as an incantation, if you like, purely for its selling power. It's a name they venerate. And of course, it is connected with the political ideal that men should be equally treated. You then make a stealthy transition in their minds from this political ideal to the factual belief that all men are equal, especially the man you are working on. As a result, you can use the word democracy to sanction in his thought the most degrading and also the least enjoyable of human feelings. You can get him to practice not only without shame, but with a positive glow of self-approval, conduct which, if undefended by the magic word, would be universally derided. The feeling I mean is, of course, that which prompts a man to say, "I am as good as you." The first and most obvious advantage is that you thus induce him to enthrone at the center of his life a good, solid, resounding lie. I don't mean merely that his statement is false, in fact, that he is no more equal to everyone he meets in kindness, honesty, and good sense than in height or waist measurement. I mean that he does not believe it himself. No man who says, I am as good as you believes it. He would not say it if he did. The Saint Bernard never says it to the toy dog, nor the scholar to the dunce, nor the employable to the bum, nor the pretty woman to the plain. The claim to equality outside the strictly political field is made only by those who feel themselves to be in some way inferior. What it expresses is precisely the itching, smarting, writhing awareness of an inferiority which the patient refuses to accept and therefore resents. Yes, and therefore resents every kind of superiority in others, denigrates it, wishes its annihilation. Presently, he suspects every mere difference of being a claim to superiority. No one must be different from himself in voice, clothes, manner, recreations, choice of food. Here is someone who speaks English rather more clearly than I. It must be vile, upstage. Here is a fellow who says he doesn't like hot dogs, thinks himself too good for them. No doubt. Here's a man who hasn't turned on the jukebox. He's one of those goddamn highbrows and is doing it to show off. If they were honest to God, alright Joes, they would be like me. They have no business to be different. It's undemocratic. Now, this useful phenomenon is in itself by no means new. Under the name of envy, it has been known to humans for thousands of years, but hitherto they always regarded it as the most odious and also the most comical of vices. Those who were aware of feeling it felt it with shame. Those who were not gave it no quarter in others. The delightful novelty of the present situation is that you can sanction it, make it respectable, and even laudable by the incantatory use of the word democratic. Under the influence of incantation, those who are in any or every way inferior can labor more wholeheartedly and successfully than ever before to pull down everyone else to their own level. But that is not all. Under the same influence, those who come or could come nearer to a full humanity actually draw back from fear of being undemocratic.